All right, I think we'll get started now. I'm going to have to lean down like this because I can't get the mic to adjust. We'll start out our county candidate night with a prayer and a pledge from Jason Lauer. He is our second vice chair of the Central Committee.
Our Father in heaven, we're grateful for the opportunity to gather here this evening and thankful for the favorable conditions in which we meet. We're grateful for those that are willing to run for office and serve us. We would ask them that they'll be able to present their thoughts and ideas to the citizens of Franklin County, that they'll be calm and comfortable, and we'll be able to make good decisions as we vote. We're thankful for the good people that we live with and are surrounded by. May we always be appreciative of that blessing. We're very fortunate. Grateful for those that work so hard to serve our community. And we ask these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Jason. In the way of just a few housekeeping announcements, some of you may have attended our legislative candidate night last week in the Robinson Building. We feel like it was a good event. About 100 people showed up in person, and that event was live streamed on our Facebook page, as is tonight's, at the courtesy of TJ Burbank. He is live streaming this event, so this will be on the Franklin County Republican Central Committee Facebook page if you want to watch it again tomorrow or refer your friends to watch it. It'll be there, as far as I know, in perpetuity for those that couldn't come. So we appreciate you filling up the seats tonight. I apologize for the chilliness. Evidently the furnace for the school has been shut down for the summer in anticipation of warm weather. So we were unable to boost that back up. But we figure this is a night hearing from politicians and wannabe politicians. It'll get hot in here real fast. So don't worry. And if it doesn't, then just turn to the person next to you and cuddle. That's why Jason and I are sitting up here together. So we want you to remember that the actual primary election is on May 21st. And you will vote at your normal precinct locations where you voted in the past. We do have a map that's posted out in the hallway if you're unfamiliar with your precinct boundary. You can refer to that or ask any of the committee members questions. And those are the ones walking around with these red t-shirts with the letters VIR on the back. Anybody know what that means? Very important Republican. So those members wearing those shirts, you can ask them anything you want. So May 21st, polls are open from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Again, I say go to your normal precinct for this. This is not like the caucus where we all voted at the high school gymnasium. We're back to business that we're used to. The other date, if you want to mark it on your calendar because it is a public meeting, May 29th at 7 p.m. at the City Council room, this Franklin County Central Committee will hold a reorganization meeting that we are required to do after every primary election. This committee is made up of your precinct chair people that are in your neighborhood, as well as a youth committee person and a state committee man and committee woman. This is the committee that represents Franklin County at the state level and at the legislative district level in other meetings. So that night we will reorganize our leadership of the committee, secretary, treasurer, chairman, etc. And that's a public meeting and you're welcome to attend and observe. It's a committee vote, but we will do that night. In addition to that, we will select from the committee as well as from the public. If any of you are interested let's have our 4 sheriff candidates make their way to these chairs, and we'll explain what we're gonna do. They're gonna draw from this bucket a number 1 through 4 to kind of give us the order that they're gonna answer questions in. They'll have a 4-minute introduction time. Then we will start with questions that we will draw from the bucket. We've got a list of 7 or 8 questions that hopefully address topics that apply to the sheriff's department, that they will each have a couple of minutes to answer those questions. There'll be 3 of those random questions picked. Before the last question, we will redraw the numbers just to maybe mix up the order and make it fair. When those 3 rounds are finished, we will then give them each another 4-minute period to come to the podium, and a mandatory question that they will address during that 4 minutes is, what do they feel the role of the sheriff's department should be or would be with our EMS services? As some of you may know or may not know, our ambulance service is volunteer, and it's staffed by some absolutely wonderful people. 2 of them are sitting in the back if they didn't leave. And they're a little short-handed. It's a hard job to do, and they need more staff. They need more volunteers from the community. So this is a county-wide issue, and that's why it's going to be asked to every candidate on this stage tonight. Just give us your thoughts, give us your opinion on what we can maybe do to solve this, so that Franklin County does not lose an ambulance service. So, gentlemen, pick a number. I gotta make sure they're mixed up. And face down so you can't read. So Mike Wilson will be number 2. Tyler Schulker is number 3. Levi Can is number 4, and that obviously leaves you as number 1. For once, you're number 1. Now the questions that they're going to draw from are all again mixed up in this bucket. Face down. And this is our way of getting audience participation. So I'm going to walk out and embarrass somebody and let them pick a question out of this bucket. Huh? They will. I'm going to have Lay Markle make it one. Okay, so our first question for you guys, after you do your introduction, I'll tell you what it is. I'm going to keep you in suspense. So, Mr. Talbot, you're number 1. Go ahead. Oh, the other thing I'll let you guys be aware of, we invested a great deal of money in this clock. When we had other candidate nights, we've always had a time limit to keep it fair to everybody, and we've, in the past, we've had candidates that kind of go over the time, and we have to chase them across the stage and get the microphone back from them. Don't make me do that, my back hurts. So please be aware of the time. You can take a glance and look at it, so that you're within time limits, and that's fair to everybody.
When you hit 30 seconds, we'll give you 1 tap, and then 2 taps, time's up.
Okay. That help you?
Okay, is that on? Okay, that's better. Okay, I'm Micah Talbot. I'm running for Franklin County Sheriff's Office. Brief rundown of me is I started in Salt Lake County Sheriff's Office in 1999, where I was in the jail. I ended up going to the road in 2008 with Salt Lake County Sheriff's Office. After that, I went, Unified Police Department was formed in 2010. Man, these lights are bright. So 2010, I went to the Unified Police Department. I went, kept going on with Unified Police Department till 2021. 2017, 16 area, I went over to Kearns High School as a school resource officer. So that population was 2,400 kids, and I was the only resource officer out there. I went from there to community-oriented policing detective shortly after that. So a lot of community involvement for my last 6 years working with Unified Police Department. I did a lot of programs out there, and I'll bring those up a little later, but that's kind of what I want to bring here is a lot of the community involvement. Shortly after the riots and things and dealing with that, dealing with media, just kind of hounding us, pounding us down, it got to the point where I could retire. Things kind of kept falling in somewhat of a place. I believe that things happen for a reason to kind of get you where you need to be in life. My wife's grandfather was passing away, Larry Bradford. We came out here to kind of build that relationship with and keep that going with family bonding and stuff. I wanted to settle down and get away from the city life. I think it was a very positive thing. I'm glad I can kind of bring my kids out here and have them be a part of being in the school system out here, just being a part of the community itself. I've been working with the sheriff's office now for almost 3 years. The last thing on my mind ever coming out here was trying to run for sheriff. I see points where we can just better ourselves and achieve better. And that's all I want to do here. I do not want to bring big city life out here. I left it for a reason, and I do not want to go back. I think that we need to adjust some certain things out here for the population that we've had. And so that's my goal with this. My wife and me have been married since 2008, so 16 years. We love it out here. We've loved being back with the family. We have multiple family members out here. Her dad, Steve Berquist and Rose, and then also her mom, Kathy Bradford, and her stepdad, Dan Birch, is also out here. So it is nice to actually have that whole bonding experience with the family, and I just want to try and help out and bring, hopefully, the community and stuff together and rebuild that relationship with law enforcement and community, and I think it's very possible at an affordable rate, and hopefully we can achieve that. Thank you.
Thank you for being here tonight. It's nice to see as many people as we have. One thing that I've learned, I'm Mike Wilson, running for sheriff here. I've learned that there's not as much interest in politics as I thought there was. So I commend everyone for taking time out of your night to be here and to learn about us. I was born and raised in Layton, Utah, on a small family farm, and I served a mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Peru. And right after that, I started going to college because I was going to be a criminal psychologist. But something kept egging at me. When I was in first grade, I had some gentlemen come to our school, and they were police officers, and they talked about safety and stranger danger and all those things. And one of them pulled out some thumb cuffs, or little tiny cuffs, and I laughed at him. So he put me up in front of everyone and put the cuffs on me, and then he twisted my thumb, so I had to stand up on my tippy toes. And for whatever reason, from that point on, I thought I wanted to be an officer. So, it was. But I decided that I didn't want to finish the schooling that way, and I wanted to go into law enforcement. And my beautiful wife, Vera, supported me on that. She knew that it was a lifelong dream and that I would be good at it. So before I even graduated from the police academy, I started in Weber County. It's the third largest county in Utah. And I started as a reserve on the road. Then I went into the jail, into corrections. I did paper service. I translated in court for Spanish. I went into training and did the arrest control tactics training. And then I was part of the SAT team, Special Actions Tactical Team, and we went to quite a few places for training for that at the time. And I kept wanting to go back on the road full-time for things that I was wanting to do. So after 9 years, the opportunity came to go to Clinton City. And when I went to Clinton City, I was the 7th officer. It was a new position that they had, and it afforded us the first time to have 24-hour coverage for the city. And I remember how the citizens really appreciated that, and that stuck with me. And when I went there, our chief was a great example. I learned a lot from him. He passed away a few years ago, but Bill always had his gun and his radio and his vest with him, and he worked every day. He didn't stay in the office the whole time. He was out with the public, and he was responding to calls with us. And I have that desire to do the same thing as sheriff. Through my career at Weber County, I started as a negotiator there. When I went to Clinton City, I continued that. Because of the Olympics that were coming at the time, we had to be FBI certified, so we went through FBI negotiations training. And during that time there, I realized that there's more to law enforcement than just going, responding to someone and dealing with the situation and taking them to jail. When you're negotiating with people, you learn that you have to learn about them very quickly, but it's their family too. And a lot of times I found that these are all good people that made a mistake. They're not all just horrible people. And so I started changing how I dealt with people, and it started changing my outlook just with the public too. And I want you to know that I'm here to serve you. I have a lot of plans, a lot of training from Clinton City, writing grants, and I want to bring that here to make it a safer community for everybody. As a sergeant, I was a sergeant for almost 7 years in Clinton City, and I had the ability to do all the scheduling, supervise the officers, and take care of things that benefited the city and brought the community closer together. So that's what I'm wanting to do here as sheriff, is to bring the community closer together, make sure your rights are protected, and that you feel safe and that you feel like you can approach law enforcement too. Thank you.
Okay, I'm Kyler Stoker, also running for sheriff here. I started my career back in 2005 with the Phoenix Police Department, graduated the academy down there, then went through the Phoenix Mini Academy after that, graduated that. And then it was at the end of 2005 when we made the decision to move back more this way to be closer to our families. And so in 2005, I was hired and employed by the Preston City Police Department as one of their full-time peace officers. And so I have been here with Preston since then, since 2005. From that time, I graduated the Idaho Police Academy. After that, a few years later, in 2012, I earned my intermediate certificate with the Idaho Post Academy, and then in 2014, I earned my advanced certificate with the Idaho Post Academy as well. During my career here, lots of different trainings that I've been involved in, instructor certifications, firearms being one of those things, emergency management being another, crash investigations. I've been to courses and trainings to help monitor our officers and their mental health, to be able to step in and help in those times as necessary. We do a lot of things here and a lot of certifications that come with those things, DUI investigations and SFSTs, and then I've been to the A-RIDE schools, which is the precursor to drug investigations that would go along with driving while intoxicated under those substances. And then during my time in 2019, I promoted to the position of sergeant with the Preston Police Department, so I oversee all the day-to-day operations of the officers. I oversee the handling of the schedule when the guys are working, and making sure that those shifts are covered, making sure the reports are being done, being completed in a timely manner, and making sure that anything that we send over to the prosecutor for review and or criminal charges to go to court are done appropriately, and that all the information is contained that's necessary to make that report viable and for the courts to be able to work with that appropriately. During that time, on the onset, I became good friends with the then Deputy Ken Geddes, who was the school resource officer here at the school. And him and I worked a lot of cases together, and from that time forward, I have been the one that's kind of responsible to oversee and investigate all of our sexual crimes in the city of Preston. And since then, I've worked very closely with the county deputies as well with their investigations and aiding them and assisting them, and especially when they ask for that help, to try to bring successful prosecution to those that are responsible for committing those crimes against others. Over my years here, I've spent a lot of time building relationships, not only within the county, but outside the county with the different agencies. We partner a lot with agencies down in Utah, so I'm part of the CART team, which is the Child Abduction Response Team, the SART team, the Sexual Assault. I don't need that. Part of the Sexual Assault Response Team. I watch a lot of stuff on TV. I reclaim my time, Mr. Speaker. In 2009, I did join the military, and I went to basic training. At basic training, I graduated with honors. Went on to AIT, they call it Advanced Individual Training, graduated that. Returned home, continued, and just through my time with law enforcement and the military, I've been lucky to be involved in a lot of really amazing trainings, meet a lot of amazing people. I did go overseas, and the biggest takeaway today from all my experience with law enforcement and the military and being overseas is dealing with what we were doing over there. And by no means am I saying that I had a crazy appointment. Mine was very different. But human life is valuable, and I value the lives of people. Thank you.
So I'm Levi Can. Is it working? No? Yeah, there it is. Anyway, I'm Levi Can, and I don't have the background these gentlemen have in law enforcement. But what I do have is I'm a mechanic. I'm a heavy equipment operator. I've been around moving vehicles almost my entire life. And I've learned that no matter what is going on, if you're not willing to stand up and say, I want something done different, then what's the point of asking anybody else to? So I'm here today because I want to improve things that I see from looking in. And to be honest, there's a lot that we need to address. And if I can see it, and not being in their office, but talking to people and listening and reading the news, I mean, we all should be watching this, and it is terrifying. And like I said, I just want a place I can live, and my children can live, and be comfortable. We don't need to be constantly bothered, but we do need constant things happening in our sheriff's department. We need to see them moving. We need to see them around, which we don't. And I'm not happy. And I don't think any of us should be. And honestly, that's why I'm here today. I don't need 4 minutes. I've lived here my entire life. Almost, I guess, since I was like 5 years old. As long as I can remember. And if I'm not happy, like I said, none of us should be. And any other questions, I hope you reach out to me. I'm done.
Okay, we'll now start with the first question. Each of you will have 2 minutes to address that. If this microphone continues to do that, I'll bring you this one, but we want you to stay right close to the podium so that the live stream will pick you up, not wandering over here. Our first question that was drawn out of the bucket, this has to do with something known as the Clark decision. That is in Idaho case law. It was a recent decision made by the Idaho Supreme Court regarding misdemeanor arrest for domestic battery situations. I am not probably equipped to explain the whole story, but this is a change to law enforcement in how they would handle what is unfortunately all too common of a call of domestic situations, domestic violence and domestic battery. So this question was drawn to have each of you address how would you handle that change? How would you make sure your staff, deputies are trained to properly follow that new case law that you would be obligated to? Okay.
Okay, so, the Clark decision, do it?
Is it not working? This one seems better. We'll reset your time. Yeah, let's just switch it. Let's make sure that one's working.
Okay, how's that? Okay, so the Clark decision is basically, in a nutshell, how it's worded is unlawful for police to make an arrest in a misdemeanor crime that hasn't happened, that happened outside their presence without a signed warrant from a judge. So, and they want us to kind of try and focus on the domestic situation with it. The domestic situation, say I get called out to a domestic situation and they've been actively fighting and actively have some injury, so it's a misdemeanor if it's more or less severe of an injury. So basically what the way the law is written is you get to write up a citation for the prominent aggressor, and you say, hey, was one of you willing to leave? And so if none of them are willing to leave, which a lot of people, honestly, when it comes to property, residence, everything, people get very hard-headed. And so they say, it's my residence just as much as it is there. So with this one, I think that there was a lot of lack of thought process that went into it, and it was to the point where we needed to kind of make, and I'm not saying it couldn't be better, but we need to kind of revise and add. And so that's kind of where I thought about it. How could it help with what I've dealt with in Salt Lake? We actually did a signed temporary restraining order that actually, until the next court date, they were unable to go back to, the prominent aggressor was unable to go back to the residence. So that's kind of what I would like to maybe bring back to the table on next legislation. But everything is kind of like just a process that we all have to go through. Thank you.
So the Clark decision, when I first heard about it, my son is an officer here in the city, and he told me about it. And I couldn't believe it. I thought it was the most disturbing thing I've ever heard come from the government. When you're dealing with domestic violence, separation is a must. And in Utah, the law is one of them has to go to jail when you're dealing with domestic violence. So when I heard they had done this, I couldn't believe the safety that they're putting the victim now in without having that protection. And so some of the suggestions that they gave when they first put this out is, well, they can get a civil protective order. Well, that's useless because it's also a misdemeanor. And unless it happens in your presence, you still can't arrest them. So separation of them is the best, and contact the victim advocates. But that still doesn't solve the problem. If there's somebody who's bent on hurting someone, they're gonna find you if you go to your parents' house or wherever. They follow you. We've seen it over and over again. And so the one thing that I wanna do is, the deputies don't currently have a printer in their car. They have one for citation, it's not a real one. 20 years ago in Clinton City, we had printers in our car. I wanna make sure the deputies all have a printer in their car, and we'll have immediate access to an attorney and to the judge so that we can get a warrant within 30 minutes. We did that all the time in Clinton City, and I know that working with the attorney and with the judge here, we'll be able to do the same thing. And that'll be the way that the deputies will be able to take care of this problem that legislation created for them. Instead of just going and taking them to jail, they'll have to go through 30 minutes to get a warrant, but then they will be able to take that person to jail, and it'll save someone's life. So that's what I want to do to help with this. And it will take some training. It'll take a little bit of budget to get printers in the cars and do that. But I know that we have a good judge and good attorney here that'll help us with all that. So That's all I gotta say about that. Thank you, guys.
Okay, I'm gonna be quick, because there's a lot. The Clark decision, this change is not new, this happened in 2019. The Idaho legislature used to have a rule that they passed that we could rule that you could only arrest a misdemeanor if it happened in your presence. They bypassed that through the legislature, that we could arrest outside of our presence on 5 things, and domestic battery is one of those. The Clark is a decision that came when it was contested in the state of Idaho from an individual who's arrested for domestic battery, and it went to the Idaho Supreme Court, and the Idaho Supreme Court ruled it unconstitutional because in our Idaho Constitution, it is where you find that you cannot arrest for a misdemeanor outside your presence. So the legislature had previously tried to bypass the Constitution, and the Supreme Court simply ruled, this is a constitutional rule for our state. You cannot legislate past the Constitution. And so that's where it came back up, that you cannot arrest outside your presence, even for misdemeanor battery. So what things have we done? We've now changed the process from that moment forward. If they are arrested on domestic battery, it's not a great, but it does help. They are no longer mandated by state statute to wait 7 days or 21 days. There's state statute that says no sooner than 7, no longer than 21. For misdemeanor battery, we can remand them to court within 48 hours. And so that's one of the steps that was taken to remedy that. And the other step that nobody wants is in Idaho code, it does not take much to have a felony battery, a felony domestic battery. And so we can arrest people if we go the felony route. So there are options, but it's not a legislature issue. It's the Constitution, and the Supreme Court of Idaho ruled based on the Idaho Constitution. And this happened in 2019.
Nice job, Micah, for explaining it. Anyway, so I actually talked to an officer in St. Anthony, and he told me that during all that, what they've started doing is they actually contact a crisis center, whether that be Kappa Women's Battery or what is it, the one in Pocatello, I can't think of it, it's a battered women's housing. They talk to them and have them go and visit those people. Now, this law is a very double-edged sword, because it also weeds out the false claims of people who are saying, oh, he did this or she did that. Because if there's nothing there for them to prosecute on, they can't do anything. And if they're not doing anything when the officers show up, there's no point. They might be able to cite them, but you know what it's like when you always hear the stories. When people show up, the officer and they're like, well, never mind. We love them. Love does crazy things to people. So there's that big balance. This is a very temperamental law that they passed, and it's got goods and bads. But I do believe that we also should have the officers show and provide information to get people help with the crisis center on this. So that's my opinion of it.
Mixing them up, keeping it fair, mixing them up. Mrs. Rooney, I'm coming to you. I told you I was gonna embarrass you. I didn't tell you you could look at that. I can read my own writing. All right, we'll follow the same number order on this question, and then as soon as this one's finished, we'll have you redraw, just to mix it up for the last question and for the final. Now, the question that our lovely Mrs. Grunig drew was, what are your thoughts, and this also follows a little bit of case law that just happened in Idaho. The use of canines in searching a vehicle or property. There was a court case in Idaho that was ruled on, and it had to do with the Fourth Amendment, illegal search and seizure. You have to say that 10 times at the beginning of your speech. Okay, so if you'll each address that question for 2 minutes, and then we'll do a redraw.
Okay, so canines, I dealt a lot with canines in Salt Lake. They were very valuable asset. Most of them were dual-purpose dogs, so we could do like apprehension, drugs, and searching. There's multiple purposes, and this one for drugs is a very valuable asset. It's a great idea. The point comes down to cost. A lot of times with not only buying the dog, but then all of a sudden now you have to continually train. So there's a lot where even before looking into how valuable is the actual search itself, it's how can we get up to par so we can utilize that. So I think they're great. I think they're a great idea. If it came out at any time, it's always better to have 2 dogs than 1 dog because you can utilize for training purposes. As far as the search goes, when they detect, you always want to err on the side of caution. If it's a mobile unit, and it can go mobile at any time, the dog hits on it, have somebody stay on it, err on the side of caution, get a warrant. I mean, that's probably the biggest thing that I can stress. The warrant will basically save you every time as far as that goes, as far as there's a contestment, I guess, is the best way to describe it, if it was valuable or not. But when a dog alerts on something, at that point, then you have that cause that you can do a search. Thank you.
So when I was at Weber County, I helped train canines, and part of that training was going through the reason why we had them and budgets and stuff. I love the canine program, and I think every agency should take advantage of it. If you were to sit down and add up the price of a canine, it averages about $30,000 for a canine for 5 years. That's way less than having an extra officer, and you can have that canine in with the officer, and so you have basically 2 officers patrolling at a time. Now, what Todd was talking about with the drugs and the liability, when you're training canine for drugs, it's a very intense training that you go through, and every dog is different, but learning how to work with them is very important for that handler. And it's important not just for the handler, but we had to train the officers that were around the dog also, so that they don't interfere inadvertently with what's going on. And when you're in a situation where the dog has alerted, then in today's world, unfortunately, it comes back to that warrant again, because that does save you. It makes sure that you have an attorney and a judge that agree with what's going on, and you can seize the car, house, whatever it is, whatever situation you're in. So the canines that we worked with in Clinton City, they didn't want to have an aggressive canine, so our first 2 canines we had there were drug only. And I can tell you that the dogs paid for themselves in the first year having them. And like Micah said, having 2 is very important because of your training and the ability that you have to have both of them out at the same time on some situations, and having them on different shifts as well. So canine is very valuable. Once again, because of court and all those things, we do have to worry about warrants and adding that extra paperwork, and that's another reason why it'd be good for the cars to have that ability to get a warrant quickly. So, thank you.
In the case that Todd referenced with the canine and the violation of the Fourth Amendment of the search and seizure law, what had happened here in the state of Idaho is we trained our dogs, and same as nationwide, the dogs would get real personal with the vehicle. They would put their paws on it, they'd put their nose on it, they'd get in there and they'd sniff and they would hone down on the area. The violation of the Fourth Amendment came in the question, in the contest of it, in the courts in Idaho ruled and agreed, the moment the dog touched that car, that's where that violation occurred. The free air is what surrounds the car. You don't have the right to touch the car. And so that's where that case ruling comes from, and that's where that violation of that Fourth Amendment came from on that case. And so now, yes, all dogs in the state of Idaho cannot touch the vehicle, or it is a violation of their Fourth Amendment right, and anything found is null and void. You can't use that. And so Idaho is having to retrain those that have dogs. They're having to retrain, and the new dogs are being trained to not touch the vehicles. Again, a court ruling that we must now abide by. They're dictating, they're telling us the manner in which we must conduct business. That's what the court rulings do. As far as a dog for us, dogs are very handy and they are very beneficial, and we utilize the agencies around us frequently that do have dogs because we do not. Things that I consider with a dog, there are considerations to take. There's the cost of the dog, there's the cost of the maintenance, there's the cost of the vet fees, and every week, one shift, that canine handler must be training the dog. So one shift a week, he's not available to take calls, and so someone else has to cover that call day for him while he's doing training, apart from the other annual big certifications that have to happen. Dogs are wonderful and they are valuable, but they bring with it its own set of circumstances that have to be considered.
Thank you, Kyler. He's right on most of that. 99% of it, I'm not gonna say. But I'm gonna say that dog is more like a 10 millimeter in a toolbox. You never can find one when you need one. And I'm being serious, because the dog is a very key point. The dog does have to be trained right, but the dog will also save a lot of time. You look at an officer when he has to tear apart a car, that dog's done half the work already for him to find the drugs. An attack dog is another good dog to have. It'll save a life of an officer. You can send them in active shooters, and other times when you don't want to go in yourself, you send a dog in first. I think we should have multiples, if not 3, to be honest with you. That $30,000 that you're talking about, Mike, money well spent. I would spend a hell of a lot more on a dog, to tell you the truth.
We'll quickly redraw numbers. Did you guys keep the number cards? Boy, I thought somebody had stolen them. I was gonna have to call the cops. Just like to toss them in, shake them around. We'll start this end this time. Oh, you do?
What's the numbers?
Micah is 3, Levi is 2, Kyler is number 4. Good, thank you. So this will be our third question. Rigdon, come up here. I don't want to walk all the way down there again. All right, Mr. Rigdon Gilbert. Can I tell a story about him? When he was 8 months old, I held him in my lap. Now look at him. Good young man. All right. There were recent changes made by Franklin County Commissioners as well as Preston City Council regarding liquor by the drink ordinance. This was done just this last couple of months. How do you, as a law enforcement officer and a department head, if you were to take this office, how would you anticipate that changing your department's role, manpower, budget, any effect at all with that new ordinance now on the book?
So being a wet city, county, whatever, it doesn't matter. In law enforcement, throughout all my training, alcohol is alcohol. If you're serving a beer, if you're serving wine, or you're serving spirits, the body absorbs alcohol the same, whether it's a hard liquor or whether it's a light liquor, okay? So when they wanted to do it, that's fine that it was done, as long as everything's passed the right way, because you don't want liability coming on later on. As far as law enforcement involvements, I used to hear things when people talked about becoming wet, that, you know, hard liquor makes people angry. And everywhere I worked was a wet city and wet county. And I can tell you that people are angry whether they're drinking beer or drinking water. If that's their lifestyle, that's who they are, okay? So it doesn't really matter. And as far as us going, I actually appreciate the establishments that serve it, because they have people working there that are responsible, and they know that they're liable if they serve too much, if they have problems. So I would much rather have people drinking there than going and buying it and driving down the road. And then having the ability for them to get a ride home. The only thing that I would think in this community, it's hard to get a taxi. I have never seen a taxi in Preston or in Franklin County. So maybe we need to work on that as a community, to have some Ubers or something along those lines. But for law enforcement, I don't see that there's going to be a big difference between responding to calls because of us becoming a wet city or not. So, thank you.
To be honest, I can see a lot of problems coming. DUIs are not tolerable. I do not like DUIs. I do not drink and drive myself. I do have a beer or two here or there, but I will not drive. And I don't think anybody should. And I'm going to say right there, that is where the 24-hour officer does come to effect, because the bars close at 1 o'clock in the morning. We need to make sure that those are actively pursued and not tolerated. The loss of a life due to a DUI is unacceptable on all levels. There is no reason to drive when you've been drinking. You can find a ride, you can walk. I don't care. I don't tolerate it, and nobody should. And to be honest, I think it's the local side of it is gonna save some accidents, because everybody wanted to go to the bar before. They'd go to Lava, they'd go to Ogden, they'd go all around. They couldn't go here local. It's a lot harder to get a ride from those places, obviously, but they'd plan ahead, they'd get a hotel. Some people would drive home, but I really hope to see DUI stops and maybe even checkpoints. I don't care, just no DUIs is my whole standpoint.
Okay, so DUIs, as far as alcohol by the drink, I don't think it's one of the best hits on, we already heard, alcohol is pretty much alcohol. It's not gonna really change anything. What it's gonna change is the points of the responsibility of the consumer. With that being said, a lot of times, I got one little message sent to me from just one of our supporters, was a DUI is a DUI regardless if it's a beer or mixed drink. And then on top of that, they did a little bit more where they looked into prosecutions and stuff. A lot of times it's after the fact of when they've already left the bar and or ran out of their own liquor at home, and then they're trying to go get more. So that's kind of the thing. It's been an evil for years to come, and we've got to kind of deal with it the best we can. And so that's kind of, it's not going to change anything. If we can do something, I liked some of the comments that was made in the council meeting with some of the certifications of maybe the servers. I think that has a valuable point where it comes into play where over-serving doesn't become an issue. And that's kind of the biggest thing that I want to do, or that I agree with. On top of that, I would love to do like Mr. Cans was talking about with some checkpoints. If we did some active programs with like a mobile unit and do DUI checkpoints. I love doing those out in Salt Lake. We had a lot of fun, and it was team building. So, thank you.
Yeah, liquor by the drink, to be honest, we've really pretty much always had it. We have a state liquor store right here in Preston. People can mix at their house. It's perfectly legal. We have some of the clubs that, per their statutes that they fall under by the state of Idaho, they've actually been able to do liquor by the drinks as well at their establishment. So it's truly not actually new for our community. It's been happening, it's out there, and I don't see it as a law enforcement officer as an added concern to the day-to-day operations of the people in the community and us as law enforcement. I can't overemphasize and overstress enough the importance for our officers and our deputies to be active when they're out and when they're patrolling, making traffic stops. And on those traffic stops, and as they're identifying the people, paying attention to what's going on and identify the times when they have somebody that has been drinking. And then they progress forward into those SFSTs that I talked about earlier. And the A-Ride comes into play with that. And we've gotten all of our city officers to that, and I think the vast majority now of all the deputies have been to that training as well. I can't overemphasize, again, the importance of the officers and the deputies being active, being proactive, and that's how they get into those things. If we were gonna start looking at the mentioned checkpoint stops, Idaho law is different, and it is extremely specific, and it is extremely rigid to ensure that you are not violating their rights and the law in the state of Idaho. If that was going to be a route that people wanted to look at, you better know the law. You better know the law, or you're going to lose. Idaho's different, and it has its laws. But again, our officers are doing good work. They're trained, and they're identifying it. And we got some guys that are pulling a lot of stuff lately. So.
Go ahead with your closing statement.
Same order that we just.
Same order, 4 minutes. Remember that the EMS situation is a mandatory question.
So our mandatory question, EMS. If any of you have seen my videos or my platform, you know that one of the things that I want to do is have all the deputies be EMTs. EMS in this county has been a blessing to everybody for decades because of people that are willing to give up their weekends, their weekdays, to leave their work and to go serve you for free. And the work that they do, with the few number of them doing it, they do deserve our applause like we did in the beginning, but they're struggling. And if you look at anyone in today's world, with our economy the way it is, it's hard to give up your time for free to go out and do things. So everyone's looking for work that pays. So by having deputies that are EMTs, first of all, the deputies usually are there first. And in a life and death situation, having proper care is minutes. You truly can change a life in just 1 or 2 minutes, but especially in 5, 10 minutes. So if the deputies are all EMTs and they have the proper equipment and training, they will be able to save lives and make differences in our community. And that's one of the things that I think would be one of the biggest things that I would want to bring to the county. The other thing with the 24-hour coverage, things that I've sought out to bring to the community, they all work together to make you safer in this community. Budget was part of it, volunteers and things that they've talked about. Our budget's set, and it's something that is very hard to change. But with the experience that I have of writing a bunch of grants and finding money outside of the budget that we currently have, I know that we could add a lot of good things to the county, to the sheriff's office, to help us to be able to make it a safer community. The problem that I see in the community right now is that there's not a lot of training, as the cities included. And as I've been out in all the communities and talked to them, they don't even know what some of the other cities are doing. They come up with some good ideas, and they're not doing it in their city. So as a sheriff, I'd like to have critical training for catastrophe and for national disasters that everyone's involved. I don't think people understand the importance of public works, roads, and water department in those situations. And if you don't train ahead of time, when it actually happens, you're not gonna be able to perform. And we've got to start doing that as a community. Everyone here has to get together, and you have to do your part to make it a safer place. We have a wonderful search and rescue team, and they need more people too. But I think they're being underutilized as search and rescue because they live throughout the community. They're in all the different cities. They train and they work with deputies, the EMS, and the fire department right now. So they have those connections. So if we were gonna do county-wide training for emergency management situations, what better people to have as leaders in each of those cities is our search and rescue. And search and rescue, being leaders, would be able to pull everybody together and say, we're doing this the same way so that every city's on the same page. If you don't, you play the way you practice. And right now, there's no practice going on in this community, in the county as a whole. We've got to change that. We all have to get together and start training together so that everyone knows what to do in those situations, because every life is important, and we want to make sure we can do everything we can to save those lives. Thank you.
I'll be honest, when I got this question the other day, I'd never even heard we had a problem with EMS. And the officers, from all my research I've done, they go out, they assess the situation while EMS is arriving. And then they also hang around and make sure that the EMS people have help to get the people off to the next place where they need to go. They also do the dispatch side. Now, to be honest with you, this is a county commissioner question. I do not believe that we should be even sitting here nitpicking out an EMS problem and a county commissioner problem. That is for somebody else to decide. And that's what I have to say about it.
So when I got this question, it kind of made me guess and wonder why, but it is to the point of County Commissioner Dill. But the biggest point that I want to get across is that when we come and we respond, it's a team effort, and we need to work together as a team and a machine and try and move forward as best we can. I had my eyes opened pretty good when I was talking with one of the EMS people the past couple days, and he kind of told me there was some miswording on some certain things. I have no idea where this came from, but they came out of saying there was only 10 people, and so it was just kind of like this uproar, apparently. So I asked him about how many were on and how many were on last year. There was 22. There's 12 that are pretty much the main active ones. But that's kind of where that came. I asked about how can we appeal more to certain things. And when you start asking these questions, you start realizing the bigger picture of, hey, even if we did on-call times and we did, hey, like $2 an hour, just something where they can get somewhat of a compensation, I think that'd be great. But then the flip side, now if they go over the hours, now they're past a full-time employee. So there's a lot of what ifs, and we've got to find a happy medium is what I'm getting at. So it's not something that I could just say, here's the fix, here it is, and I like to be able to communicate, and we had a great communication the past 2 days, and I want to continue that, and I think that we could actually come up with something more valuable if that communication can continue. One of the things that he was talking about was just trying to get more volunteers, and I think if we spread that out, I think we can actually get the hours waged. It's 19 hours and under is considered part-time. So that's how they kind of do that, but that's a week. So that's what we kind of have a hurdle to bring to the table. Other things that'll bring that communication to the table, I want to kind of piggyback off of special events, do some nights out against crime, and we can actually make ourselves available to the public. So my biggest thing, just like I was talking about when I introduced myself, is I'm a massive community-oriented policing detective from Salt Lake, that I want to bring that to the table, and I want to know you guys to know that we are here for you, and we are a team. And if we can all come together, we can succeed. So other than that, I'll leave that at that and be done.
Yeah, as it's kind of been said, EMS is not the realm of the sheriff to make those decisions or to even attempt to step in and tell them how they should, or anybody how that should be. We are here to support them. And we respond to calls with a medical issue happening, because typically we can be available and we are available. So when we respond, we're only there to assist EMS. They're in charge, and they're the ones with the licensing, and they're the ones with the certifications. There's things that I think about, and there's things that I consider. If I were to go and become an EMT and respond as a police officer with that, there's some things that come up with that. If I'm not working for the ambulance and I'm not on the ambulance schedule, I am not covered under the license of a medical director anywhere. And there's issues with that. There's liability issues with that. The only way I get that coverage is I need to be on the ambulance schedule. So me responding does not help EMS in their licensing needs. They have very specific requirements by Idaho law and by the licensing boards. And what EMS needs, as been stated, they need people to sign up on the schedule. It cannot be if you page, we will come. They have to have names, and that's part of their licensing. And those individuals that are on the schedule, they are covered under the license of the medical director. If you are not on that schedule, you are not covered, and that's a liability issue. And so it's things, that's something that I think about. We want our people medically trained, and we want them competent. I am a TAC Med instructor for the state of Idaho for post. That's tactical medicine, so that's the stop the bleeding right now. I'm an alert instructor, which is the active shooter response training stuff. And so the TAC Med goes right along with the alert, because we are training our officers that our first goal is to stop the killing, and then we immediately, once that's taken care of, we transition into stop the dying. So TAC Med comes in. We just did a TAC Med course here for the police officers and for the deputies. So yeah, there's things that I consider, and our EMS people are the best ones equipped to answer questions on what their needs are, not the sheriff. How can I, as sheriff, support EMS? I continue to ensure that our dispatch center has people that are trained and that they're continuing to progress forward in their career. And as the calls come in, they're taking quality information in so they can pass quality information back out to all the responding units. I can make sure as sheriff that our communication network is up to date to the best that we can do, so that the repeaters are working, so that our radio communications are working again, so that deputies can be in communication, so EMS can be in communication. Those are the things, just a couple things that the sheriff is responsible for. The communications network and the dispatch center, and we have dispatchers that are doing a wonderful job, and we have dispatchers that are new, and they're learning, and they're progressing in the way that we like to see. And so, as the sheriff, I support the dispatchers, and I get them to additional trainings as well. I don't train just my deputies, I train my dispatchers, and I train the civil portion of things, driver's license and civil papers. They are also under the hat of the sheriff, and they also need and deserve quality training so that they too can be happy in their career and want to stay and be productive for the community. That's what I would say about how we could help EMS. Thank you.
All right, gentlemen, thank you very much. That concludes your candidate night. You're off the hook. You can
So if we can have the candidates for County Commissioner District 1. That would be Zan Bowles, Blake Rindelsbacher, David Formica. Rindelsbaker, right? Did I say it right? If those three gentlemen will make their way up. While they're coming up, I wanted to make another little announcement. A common question that we've had over the last month is on the county commissioner races. We have 3 districts for county commissioners in Franklin County, District 1, 2, and 3. This is District 1. They represent the area up around Cub River, Franklin, Fairview, Whitney area. So they will represent District 1. But every single county resident, no matter where you live, votes for all the districts. I happen to live in District 3, but I will be voting, my ballot will have District 1 and District 3 on it. So that's a common question we get asked, and it makes sense. You think you're only voting in the district you live in, but on the county commissioner race, you vote for all of them. So even though you don't live anywhere near these guys, you can vote for one of the 3 on May 21st. The reason for that in the state of Idaho is it allows the entire county population to pick their commissioners. The district part of it makes sure that all of the county geographically is equally represented. Every corner thereby gets some sort of representation. So let's let you draw numbers. There's 1 through 4, then we'll just go in the order. David is number 2. Zan's number 1. No. You're actually number 3. You drew 4. We'll let you be number 3. Okay. We'll just set those there for now. Okay, we will draw a question for these guys from the county commissioner topics.
Don't we get to introduce ourselves first?
Yes, they'll have their introduction. I want to draw this first question while I'm standing, so I don't have to get up again. I had somebody picked out, and now he's left. Rigdon, do you want to pick another one? All right, let's start with number 1, introduction, 4 minutes.
Good evening, I'm Zan Bowles. I can't believe that tonight that there wasn't options for someplace for you to be tonight or something else that you could be doing, but you're here, and I've got to appreciate that and respect that you're the citizens that want to make an informed vote. You want to know the issues. It's on your backs that we still live in a democracy, and I'm grateful for that. And I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad to be here tonight. Take a few minutes to introduce myself. Maybe some of you know me. I've lived in the county my whole life. I'm 68 years old. I was born and raised down on the farm that Dirk's on. And by the way, Dirk is a brother, and no, we're not trying to keep it in the family. He's just smarter than me. He wants to get out, and I'm thinking I want to get in. So. The name might sound familiar, but I was born and raised down in Fairview, lived there my whole life, except for a couple of years where I went on a mission, and while I was away on a mission, a family moved in next door to us, and I come home, and there was my wife, soon to be. I met Tammy and married her, and we've spent the first 16 years of our life, or the first 40 years of our life, or a long time, I don't know the numbers. Down in Fairview, that's where we raised our family. I've got 4 beautiful daughters. I've got a fine son that lives in Florida. All my daughters live in the county. All 20 of my grandchildren live in the county. And that's why I'm running for commissioner. Because I've loved every minute of living in this county. And I want to help protect and ensure that the county stays similar. I know you can't put a stamp on and say we're not gonna have no more growth, but I want to keep the small town agriculture feel. So that's why I decided to run for county commissioner. After Tammy and I got married, I went off to school down at Utah State and hadn't been there very long. My dad calls and told me that he was selling the dairy equipment business, and that he says, I can't do it. He was farming at the same time and had a little dairy herd, and he says, I can't do it all. I'm gonna sell it. Do you want to come home and run it? And here I am 45 years later. So I just recently sold that a year ago this March to a full-time employee, Matt Haslam. No, I'm not running for county commissioner because I'm bored, because I'm retired, because I'm not officially retired. I retired from ownership, but I still work for Matt on a pretty regular basis, and when I want to, and depend on the project and where we're at, I still work for Matt. But because of that, I have time. Because I've retired from ownership, I have time, and so there's never been a time in my life when I've been able to have a little bit the free time that I have now. And so with my wife's encouragement and with some encouragement from some of you citizens, I decided to throw my hat in the ring, and I'm excited to get an opportunity to serve the citizens of Franklin County. I think in the 45 years I've spent, or 40 years I've spent in business dealing with the public and solving problems and dealing with issues that come up, I've developed a skill set that will make me a better county commissioner than what I would have been 30 years ago when I once considered it. But anyway, I appreciate this opportunity. Looking forward to answering some questions, and that's a little bit about me.
Good evening. My name is David Formica, and I am running for County Commissioner for District 1. For over 12 years of traveling throughout Cache County and other areas for work, I was drawn to Franklin while driving around, and I was just amazed by the beauty of this place, and we were captivated. My wife, Lisa, I've taken her on a few trips with me on a few occasions. We fell in love with Franklin County. And I asked her, I says, what do you think? She goes, this is where we're going to live. So we just had to find a way to get here. During the early stages of COVID, we finally escaped California and purchased our dream home in Franklin. We are drawn to this area for its quiet, safe lifestyle and its beauty. We love that the people have great conservative values, and we are just happy to be a part of this community. This June, we will be married 40 years, and I'm just proud to have her as my wife. We feel blessed and thankful to be your neighbors. I feel a sense of duty to give back and contribute to the residents of this county who have welcomed us and made us feel confident we made the right choice. I have served the past few years as a local GOP committee member and representing precinct number 10, Franklin, and it's given me a chance to express my love for this community and my country. I am recently retired as an internal auditor for a large Fortune 500 company at which I worked for over 20 years. I audited 47 locations across the county twice a year. It was my job to assess and grade each location, and for the stores that were failing, I had to come up with solutions and turn them around and be profitable. It was everything from finance to inventory to operating procedures and general management. I then had to report to the executive teams my findings and recommendations. I think I did a pretty good job. They kept me around for 13 years in that position. I feel my work experience can contribute to as a county commissioner, and I want to help lead us in the right direction. I feel very blessed to be here and to take part in this community. I want to spend my time now giving back any way I can. I welcome getting to know more of you during this campaign. I believe in a common goal of being transparent with everything. I want our community here to have a voice. When you contact me or anyone on my team, we will respond and be available to all of you. You know, I want to speak from the heart because I know I don't have the name recognition, but I do have my character. And I wear my heart on my sleeve. I don't know if that's my good points or it's my downfall. I have no idea if it's who I am. I just want to ask of you guys, step outside of that safe zone and judge me for my heart that I'm throwing out to you right now. And know that you picked the right person to do the job. This will be my only job. Since I am retired, I will spend all my time looking forward each day to helping this community move forward. I promise to do my best to uphold this position, and I will always think of our community before anything else. It will be my honor to serve this community, and I just hope that when the time comes, May 21st, that you will think that what I'm telling you now is the truth. And I appreciate this time spent over here with you tonight. Thank you.
I'm Blake Rinlesbaker. I was born and raised in Whitney, where I've lived my whole life. I'm married to Stacy, and any of you that have insurance may have worked with her over the years. We have 2 kids and 1 grandson. My parents are Jerry and Trudy Rinlesbaker. My dad was born and raised in Riverdale. My mom was born and raised at the Oneida Power Plant. So we're not newcomers to the county by any means. We have a small herd of cows that we run. We raise a few horses. I enjoy being outdoors, whether it's checking the cows, hunting, or going on a pack trip. I worked at West Motor for 21 years as an automotive technician. Then me and 2 of my partners, we started an automotive business and we opened Smiles Automotive. We owned and operated Smiles Automotive for the past 14 years. During that time, I learned how to work with the public, manage personnel, and business finances. Being a county commissioner hasn't been a dream of mine by any means. When I was approached about doing this earlier this spring, I wasn't really sure, but as I checked into it and researched some of the issues the county is dealing with and learned a lot about those issues, I decided that it was something that I needed to get involved with. Franklin County is a great place to live, but like everything, it is always changing. There's always going to be challenges, but with the help and ideas of people in the community and good planning, we can protect the way of life we have. As I've visited with the people this past month and have discovered everybody in each community around the county has a little different idea or concerns about what needs to be done. But the one thing I've learned is a lot of people have some really good ideas, and the communication needs to be kept open, because I surely don't have all the answers, and I don't know all the concerns in each community. With the rising costs of everything, $1 at the county is just like $1 at your home. It doesn't go very far these days. A lot of the concerns I've heard about are going to take some planning and budgeting due to the rising cost of everything. I feel like I am very approachable, and one thing is for sure, not everyone is going to agree on everything. But I can disagree with you and still be open-minded and your friend. I know I have the skills and ability to do this job and help make decisions that will be in the best interest of this county. I'd like to thank everybody for coming out and just getting involved, because, like I say, earlier this spring, I wasn't as involved as I am now, and I've learned a lot, and it's up to the people of the community to lead it. We're just here we're here to lead it, but we need the ideas from you. Thank you.
I think right now, part of this question is how do we prioritize the resources to each one of these? As far as I understand it, Franklin County, as far as the TV translator district and cemetery districts, all we do is collect the money and it goes right into these unincorporated areas. And these unincorporated areas in the county are just part of the county, and we treat them like that, and they get treated like that. About the only governing boards in these unincorporated, it's not a governing board, but about all they have usually is a cemetery district, and like for instance, Fairview has a water board. But aside from that, there's no government entity. And now the other incorporated areas so far they've had a really good relationships, and I hope this continues on, because Franklin County, they do some of the pavement for some of these incorporated areas. They do some of the chipping for the cities of Franklin and Dayton and Weston and who am I missing? There's a couple others. Preston is the big one that they do work for, and they have a really good relationship. I know that Franklin County also has a really good relationship with Oneida County. They share a paver. Both counties can afford a paver. They switch trucks back and forth when they're on big jobs. That's a nice relationship to have. There's a 4-county area that meet together every 4 months, and they talk about the problems they're having and ways that they've tried to solve this or solve that, and so it's nice to have that relationship with the other counties also. And we have a good relationship with Lewiston, Utah. Right now they're working on the state line road down there. As you go out of town towards Lewiston, there's a state line road down there that's half owned by our county and half owned by Lewiston, and they're working on getting that paved in a relationship with Lewiston. So I think we have a very good relationship with people around us.
As far as growth, I don't think the other counties really get together and really collaborate on much of anything to each other. That's just the way I feel about it. I feel we pretty much have no ideas for future growth together. I think we should all get together and have some time to spend together, maybe once a month as commissioners, and get together and try to collaborate and see what projects we can work on together that can further grow the whole community, instead of being separated and one doing one thing, one doing another. I think that there's ways that we can share that time and help one another and financially put together projects that will work for the whole community. One project I'd like to look at is maybe like new home growth. We all need to have growth in our communities in order for us to take in more revenue. So I'm thinking about maybe get together with the other communities and take our landholders that currently own substantial amounts of land and maybe help them on subdividing their properties and helping them to ease rules and regulations so that they maybe can subdivide and get some type of water rights to subdivisions, they can have new home growth on the properties that they currently own, and they can financially get the gain from it, not the big companies that come in and want to build 57 townhomes somewhere. We can give it back to the community that way, but we can't do that unless we all work together. If we can also maybe take a look at our water needs, and I'll discuss that as a topic with each other. I think that would be a big issue, because I know that that's a touchy subject. Idaho is growing at a very fast pace. I want to grow here too, but I want it to be acceptable to all of the community as well. I want them to be happy with the growth that we're having, and I want you to have a say in that. Thank you.
So Franklin County is unique because it has several cities within the county boundaries. And so the main thing that Franklin County has to do is we collect the taxes for them and then give that money back to them. But the main thing we got to do is be very open communication with the city councils so that we can work together. And the main thing is the communication has got to be there, because with Preston City, Franklin, Weston, Dayton, Clifton cities, all there. We've got to be able to work with those city entities. Right now, like it's been mentioned, the road department is very good that if they're in the area, they go to the cities and they see what paving they need to do or chipping, and then they go in there and they do that for the cities at cost. And that's one way that the county helps those cities out, because those cities wouldn't be able to do that on their own. But the main thing is the communication between the county commissioners and those city councils. Thank you.
Well, I walk out here, I have another question, John. I remember one other date to tell you about. If any of you are interested in actually doing an absentee ballot, the deadline to request that ballot is May 10th. So that's just a week away, and you can do that at the county clerk's office. So if that's applicable, please don't miss that deadline. Don't blush, just pick a card. All right, gentlemen, this probably won't take you as long. The question is how, if you're a county commissioner, how do you plan to make yourself available to the public? That's simple.
That's a pretty easy one for me, because as many of you know, since I've been 23 years old, I've been in the dairy equipment business. And if you got a dairyman that's got a creel full of cows and he can't milk them, they call me, and I got to be able to answer the call. They got to be able to get a hold of me. I mean, I can't say, well, I'll see you Monday morning. They've got to be able to get a hold of me. So before cell phones, we had radios. My wife could get a hold of me in Malad to Bear Lake. She had a base at the house. I have always I've had to stay in business, is make myself available. Even to this day, even in partial retirement, I haven't changed that any. There is always somebody that knows where I'm at. My wife, number one, Matt Haslam, number two, knows where I'm at. Even I horse ride a lot. I go a lot by myself. I tend to go in areas that have cell phone service for two reasons. One, I'm getting older and I don't set a horse as good as I used to. And if I coming off, I want to be able to get a hold of somebody. The other reason is Tammy's, takes a call. She's got to be able to get a hold of me, or they got to call me. Most everybody has my phone number. All the customers we deal with have my phone number. I'm easy to get a hold of. I live up Sugar Creek. I'm home a lot. It's not hard to find me up there. Even when we elk hunt in Wyoming a lot, or over in Stump Creek area, I know every hill in the Diamond Creek Range that I can get service off of. And the days that I didn't make contact home with Tammy, I would drive out 4 or 5 miles, call home, check in. I've had to be available to make a living.
My whole campaign is run off of transparency. I believe it's so important. I think that we should be available when we're on the call and we're doing our job. We should be available to all of you at any time. If you email us or you call us, we need to get back to you. And I will make that a point. We will get back to you. I may not have all the answers, but I will do the research and I will get the facts for you and I will get back to you. I think it's so important. Everybody should have a voice in this community. It shouldn't be about the people who are sitting behind closed walls making all the decisions and making them for you as well without having your voice be heard. So for me, it'll be making decisions, but it'll also be with your voice being heard too. So we will be available to you. And if I'm elected, I'll be available to you throughout the work week, and even in an emergency arises on the weekends, for that matter. I'll make it a point to answer all my calls and respond to all my emails. Since I'm retired, this is my only job, as I stated before. I may not have all the answers, but I will get them for you. like I said in the beginning, we will be transparent about everything. Thank you.
This question is a lot easier in today's world than it was 15, 20 years ago, because everybody's got a cell phone now. And, you know, if you call, even if I can't answer it right there at that moment, the best thing to do is leave a message, a little bit about what you're calling about. Then I don't have to just say, oh, Dave called, so I call him back. Well, then I find out what he wants. If I have a little bit of a message, then I can do a little research and find out, you know, the information that you need when I call you back. But, you know, there's the calling on the cell phone, there's texting, there's emails. I'll be honest with you, I'm terrible at emailing, but my wife, she's training me. I get a lot of emails for church, and every few weeks she'll say, hey, you've got 30 emails in there. And I'm like, well, just delete them. But she makes me go through them, and we look at them. So I am in training, I guess you could say. Thank you.
Okay, we've got to redraw numbers. Blake is number 2, Zan is number 3. You're number 1.
I'm number 1.
Fair enough. You got that number down? David is 1. Is that correct? Okay. So this will be the third question, then they will use that same order for their concluding statement. We'll go up this aisle. You may not go that. You. You didn't hear me groan coming up those stairs, did you? Okay, this question might have a little more to it, 2 minutes, and it's basically Franklin County, like everything else, is growing. How are you gonna manage that growth as a county? You do have a planning and zoning commission, but there's probably more county population growth than there was Preston City in the last census. And I know there's frequently subdivisions and things like that coming to the county. So we'd like to hear from each of you for 2 minutes. How are you gonna manage that growth for the county?
As I stated before, I'd like to bring the growth as far as new land or new sales of homes and this, that, back to our community. I think that our community should financially gain from any of those sales instead of having, like I said before, bigger companies come in and present all these units and this and that, and they get the proceeds from that. So that's one way of it, and I'm just bringing that to you again. I know that we have a lot of infrastructure that needs to be built and needs to be maintained, and I think that as long as we can come to the table and put everything out there and see what we need to do, I think that we could take a good look at things and start creating a good plan for infrastructure growth as well as our home growth. But I want to do it with your guys' planning too, because if it causes you guys as a community to be upset with things that want to be built, then we shouldn't be doing it that way. It has to become, everything has to have a structure with a commonality of having everybody involved. from us as the people who are planning to the people who are living in our community. If we could do that, I think that we can make a future that will be a growth plan that is put on a level that is acceptable to all. And I think that if we look at everything that we've shelved in the past, everything that we've never took a very hard look at, I think that's wrong. I think that we need to, when I need to get in there, I want to put everything out on the table. I want to look at everything again. I want to give it a fresh look, and I want to say, what takes priority? And that's how financially we're going to work with things. We're going to look at things, what needs to be prioritized with you in mind, and we are going to make growth happen. Thank you.
So the growth is a tough subject because, I mean, if you're not growing, you're dying. But as we grow, we've got to be, the main thing is planning for it. Because the growth is coming whether you want it or not. So we've got to plan the best we can so that in 10 years, 15 years down the road, we don't look back and say, oh, we should have done this or we should have done that. One thing that I would like to say, like Todd mentioned, that there's more growth in the county actually than in the city. And I would like to see the city, both, you know, Franklin City, they're growing like crazy, but I'd like to see Preston City be a little more proactive on their growth. They have the infrastructure, they have the water system, they have we're getting the new sewer system. And that is in place, whereas in the county, you know, yeah, Whitney has a water system, Fairview has a water system, but Whitney's is done. The state won't let us sell any more water. So I would like to see Preston City kind of step up and promote growth a little bit more within the city. Along with, you know, if the city grows, that also adds growth in the county, you know, the infrastructure, it puts a burden on the roads and everything, and that is just something we're gonna have to budget for and grow with, but the main focus is planning and ideas from the community. Thank you.
I think that the answer to that question lies within the question itself, because it says, what are your thoughts on managing the demand of county infrastructure, staff, budget, etc.? The first function of leadership is to lead. And to set a good example, the second function of leadership is to manage. Manage our resources. I deal with Rocky Mountain Power on a weekly basis, and it's obvious, and it's probably obvious to you, that we don't have unlimited resources, so they need to be managed. We need to be ahead of the curve when it comes to building and subdivisions, and you know, another big item is not only, you know, dealing with Rocky Mountain Power and our infrastructure there and our power grid, is our water. Those of you that we're all agriculture related here, whether you know it or not. This is an agriculture community, and we have agriculture ties, and water is critical. We don't have unlimited water. Depending on the year, ask the farmers on the west side, you know, what kind of water we have. So we need to manage it. We need to stay ahead of it. We need to be aware of what's coming, and of course, there's certain things we don't want to see. I mean, I was in a city council meeting the other day, and an outside contractor wanted to come in and build a big block of homes, I think 250 on the outskirts of Preston. I have trouble taking farm ground out and covering it with asphalt, pavement, and septic tanks. Got to be able to manage it, got to be able to stay ahead of it. And with the input from planning and zoning and citizens and communication, we can keep ahead of it. I think they've done a very good job so far.
Okay, your final remarks. And remember, address the EMS question.
EMS, it needs to be totally revamped. It's a mess. We need to take a new look at incentive programs, also search and rescue, and maybe find a competitive pay rate that will work for them, that will create job recruitment and get people in that will want to do this job and have an incentive to do this job. Maybe look at the health plan and give them a good health plan that will work for them. In training as well. Maybe we can help with our state legislatures to pass a bill to support the rural recruitment of EMS. If our community has any ideas, I will definitely consider everyone's input. I think your input is important. It is everything to me. I would also like to look at any other shelved projects as far as the EMS that we've ever shelved in the past. I'd like to take a new look at that. I'd like to see that if there's anything we can do to revitalize it. We'll put everything on the table that we are currently working on. And if anything, any idea that was not working for them, we're gonna take a new look and we're gonna make it work for them. We gotta try to create new incentives. And in closing, I'd like to say that it would be my honor to serve you, this community. I love this community with all my heart. And if you see that I am worthy, please vote for me on May 21st. I will definitely put myself out there for you, and I will take a business approach of everything that has been learned in my career to help move this community forward. All I'm asking for is a chance. Thank you.
The EMS service was probably one of the biggest eye-openers that I got when I started doing some research on stuff. And in visiting with them, they are doing an exceptional job for what they are, for the resources they have. Some of the biggest problems is you know, they just can't get young people to dedicate the time and to the service to the EMS that some of these people that have been doing it for years have. So one way we got to do that is I think we've got to make it their pay beneficial. Right now, if they're on call, they're not making no money, but they have to be within 3 minutes of the ambulance. If they do go on a call, they get $15 an hour while they're there. They don't know what kind of situation they're going to. It may be physically challenging, mentally challenging. You know, it's a life-threatening situation. They're under a lot of stress. And for only $15 an hour for the training they have to have, it's a tough call. One thing I think we could do is if they go on a call and they assess the situation and they don't transport back, they do not bill. So if they go to assist somebody that has fallen down and they get them up, or they go to an accident and they assess the people there, and the people don't want to be transported, there's no bill that they don't receive any money for it. So, you know, we need to bill every call they go on. And it's just gonna have to be, there's gonna have to be some more budget allocation from the county for them also. Right now there is a bill in the state that would make EMS an essential service, so we would get some state money, but they allocate it they would allocate it as to the size of the county and everything, and when we get all done, we would get about $16,000 a year is what they project, and, you know, that's, so waiting on the state is not gonna be an option. You know, we've gotta figure this out on a county level and get something done there. And the EMS, it is an essential service. I didn't really realize the stress that it puts those people under to be on call, and what they do for us. And, you know, if you wanna really delve into it, if, you know, you go talk to Mark Gilbert and get his aspect on it, and it would give you a new light on the situation. I'd like to thank everybody for coming tonight and just say that I would love to serve the community and to work for you. And just make sure you get out and vote and get your neighbors to go vote so that you guys get what you want. Thank you.
The beauty of small-town politics is you don't have a bad choice. Grateful for these guys and their efforts to want to serve the county and be a part of the solution and go forward. This EMS thing, there's not any of us here that haven't been affected by that. And it's been a positive experience for the most part. I mean, people coming out and helping our loved ones and our family and friends in emergency situations. It's blessed all of our lives. There's no doubt about that. And it's in pretty dire straits. And I have several opinions of why it's like it is, and a lot of it even has to do with our national politics and the mess that seems to be in, the chaos, I should say, that seems to be in. As I became aware of this EMS problem we have and the volunteerism that we're not experiencing in this county, I did some homework, and you got to know that about me. I have a curious mind. And when I'm confronted with, when I have some difficulties or things in front of me that I'm not up to speed on, I get up to speed. I do a little homework. I like to study, and I have a curious mind, and I'll dig into it, and I'll come up with an answer. Together, we will come up with an answer to get that'll serve and help solve the problem, our EMS problem. I look at it from a businessman's point of view. I've been in business for a long time, and when we get low on help, we start looking around. We talk to our employees, and we're gonna need some more help. And so we start a recruitment. We just don't hang out a placard and say we need more people. We start a recruitment, and we approach people. And sometimes we even have to sweeten the pot. And one of these guys mentioned the $15 an hour. I know from the research I've done and the work that I've done, that there's a plan in progress now to even change that. By this fall, it's going to be more equitable to our firefighters, and the wages are going to be similar, and because right now there's quite a disparity. But there's been a lot of work, and this fall it's going to look a lot better, thanks to our current commissioners, by the way, who've been working on this for some time. But back to this recruitment. I'm a prime example of that, and I running for commissioner wasn't on my radar partly retired, and it just wasn't on my radar. I was approached, and what's the natural reaction when people want to change things? We don't like change, and I don't think I'm interested in that. And then I thought about it, and then I was approached again, and talked it over, and I took it to my wife at that point, and for the last month I haven't done much else. I'm all in. I've been recruited. And I wonder if we need to do a little bit more of this in our EMS program. Identify people that are in a position in life and have the skills. Maybe we need to sweeten the pot a little bit. When somebody comes to work for me, and we say, hey, we'll put you through the apprentice school, it's 4 years, we'll put you through, you can drive our truck down to school and blah, 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 blah. But you gotta commit to us for a certain amount of time. And there's several things we can do. I flesh out some of these ideas. I have a Facebook post, Zan Bowles for County Commissioner. It's on Facebook. I flesh out some of these ideas. Thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for being concerned citizens and making this county what it is. It's a wonderful place to live, and I hope to add to that. Thank you.
All right, gentlemen, that concludes you're off the hook as well now.
Thank you, sir.
So, thank you. Where did we have the numbers? Did I take them back? I keep losing those numbers, so we don't really need them. All right, we'll have our final segment, County Commissioner District number 3. We've just got 2 candidates to report. We have Diane Burnett and Zach Stewart for District 3 County Commissioner. So there's just a number 1 and a number 2. And the ladies always go first. All right. You can drop it. So we'll start with your introduction, Diane, and then Zach for the 4 minutes. Now, with the way the questions go, we don't have to draw any more questions. There's 3 left. So we'll just take those each one at a time.
Good evening. I'm Diane Burnett, and I am so glad to be here. I'm my father's child, as we all are. I'm not territorial and not tribal. I'm a free market, true Republican. Now I gotta tell you, I didn't start out being a Republican. I was a really energetic Democrat campaigning for Jimmy Carter. And I was 17. So when my synapses in the brain started to connect, I became a Republican. And that happened about 21. In my early years, I was a state delegate and a county delegate in Utah. My daughters have followed my example, and they are now county delegates as well. I have children, 10 children in a blended family. Now, if you want to know what's hard in life, get 10 children from a blended family together, and guess what? They're ours, and they're all loved, and they all love each other. That is an amazing accomplishment. I'm 64 years old. I get up at 4:30 every morning. I go to bed around 11:30. I live life to the fullest. To me, living life to the fullest is serving my family and my community. I want to die a bright star. I want to use every bit of me up. That's who I am. I'm a happy mother. I married my husband today. We do love the military. He joined the Navy at 17, right into the Vietnam War. He turned 70 in 2 weeks. I'm 64, and I think I'm a spring chicken. I don't know how old I am until I look in the mirror. Just like, oh no, who was that woman? So I've had many businesses. You know, in a blended family, that means at one time I was a single parent. And I know what it's like to be a single parent. It takes a lot of faith and courage and dedication to be the sole provider of 5 teenagers and a new baby. I have great faith. During my life, I've done many things. I currently, right now, run a commercial business lending business that I'm the sole proprietor of, and I help people navigate through their projects and their projections and all the paperwork and the grant applications, but sometimes those grant applications are 200 pages, and they have a point system. It is absolutely atrocious. I don't know why I do it. The secret is, it's the goal that keeps me doing what I do. When I have people come in with almost impossible measures on trying to repair their businesses or start a business, to sometimes find capital to keep going and to pay those wages. We go through those debts together. We try to find out how we can cut and save cost. Anyway, I'm glad to be here today. I have a multifaceted, long life of doing many things, including I was instrumental in helping Croatia back in 1990 get the refugees from Bosnia over there. So, was I asked to do it? Was it my job? No, it wasn't, but I did it anyway. I have faith, and I believe that I can do many things that others would think were impossible. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome to put it up with me. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Zach Stewart, and I'm running for County Commissioner for District 3. I really appreciate everyone being here tonight, and it's kind of a long night. Hopefully I'm last but not least. I appreciate you sticking around, and hopefully you'll hear some things that you want to hear about your next county commissioners. My wife Ricky and I live in Weston, and we have 4 kids, and our oldest 2 boys are on missions. My daughter's a junior in high school, and my youngest son is an 8th grader at Westside. And we love living in Weston and Franklin County. When I was a kid, my grandpa, Boyd, and Grandma Sybil, some of you here in the audience probably know them, in their kitchen they used to have a sign that said, honor, duty, and service to God, family, and country. That's the way that they lived their lives. That's the way they taught their kids to live their lives. And that's the way that my parents taught me to live my life. As a result of that, I spent 20 years in the Air Force. I was an officer and a pilot. I served in peacetime and in combat time. I led folks at home in their mundane paperwork tasks. I led them through nuclear surety inspections. For 20 years I led. I retired from the Air Force a couple of years ago, and now I'm a rancher and a farmer. I have a small cow-calf operation, and we grow a little bit of hay and some wheat. So I'm intimately familiar with the small-town agricultural lifestyle that we love so much here in Franklin County. You know, a lot of people, as I've gone around and I've started to talk to people ask, what does a county commissioner do? They do a lot of things, but I think what they ultimately do is they lead. They lead the citizens of the county, they lead the employees of the county, they lead the department heads of the county, they lead. They lead as they interact with state officials, as they interact with local communities or surrounding counties. They lead. For 20 years I led in the Air Force. I have a proven track record of leadership, and I think that makes me intimately and uniquely qualified to become your next county commissioner in District 3. Additionally, as a rancher, I know that a dollar doesn't stretch that far anymore, and I know that we want to keep the things that make Franklin County great. We want those to continue. A lot of people have said already tonight that we have a lot of growth headed our ways, a lot of changes. I agree that we have some changes, but with some good leadership and some vision, I think that we can tackle those challenges head on. One of the biggest things I want to do as a county commissioner is make sure that our county departments have 1, 5, and 10-year plans, that we're planning for the future, that we're not being reactive, that we're being proactive. Now, a lot of those departments already have those, but not all of them do. And I think that's very important. I think as a county commissioner, we can help establish that, and then we can help provide the resources to get there. When it's all said and done, you know, the biggest reason that I want to be your county commissioner is because service is in my blood. It's what I've done. It's what I want to continue to do. Since we've been back, I've been part of the Planning and Zoning Commission. I'm on the Fair Board and part of the Republican Committee. That's made me want, as I've gotten to know members of the community better, different members of the county, it's made me want to continue to serve. So I hope that you'll remember that on May 21st and vote for me. Thanks.
questions, then we'll just flip you for the last. So you have 2 minutes, and we're gonna hold you right strict to 2 minutes, guys. Everybody's been here a while. The first question is gonna be a very common topic that comes to the county commissioners over the years is access to public lands through private property. And so we'd like you to just address your thoughts and things about how to manage that kind of question if it was to come to you on the commission.
Sounds great. So I did some research on this. I'm a great researcher, and if you look at the QR code on here and focus onto it, it'll take you to my website with over 30 different issues that I think that we need to change. I called the BLM, called the Forest Service, called around, got some questions, and there's 2 types of access that we have. One is that we have property owners that are buying property, and then they are blocking off the access so that we cannot enter it. So even though we've been using it for 80 years, and it's been our generational posterity's gift, all of a sudden that access is being cut off. The other access we have is with poor maintenance and roads. So these are the 2 different types of access that we're dealing with. The most dangerous one is the first. When a property owner decides all of a sudden to sell their land to someone that's new and maybe doesn't want you to use that land anymore. You see, our public lands, they are a great GDP for us, meaning that we make money off of them. People come here, they come here to hunt, to camp, to go ride their four-wheelers and to enjoy the nature. And Franklin County has 32% public lands. So out of the 450 acres, 50,000 acres, 450,000 acres? Anyway, 32 of those are public lands, and so we need to be able to use those public lands to increase tourism and actually for all the businesses to make money off of them. So we need to find a solution. There are some, they might be taking some legal action in order to go ahead and preserve those rights. But however, in the future, we do need to get easements in place so that we don't have an ongoing problem.
I think Diane's right. We do live in a beautiful place, and we have lots of public lands around us, and many here in the audience like to use those. I think this really boils down to kind of a property rights issue. I would say that when our founding fathers established the United States, they talked about life, liberty, and the pursuit of property, which was later changed to pursuit of happiness, but they kind of go hand in hand. So ultimately, I think property rights are important. The crux of the situation, I think, comes down to whether there are right-of-ways and county roads that provide access to those public lands. And if that's the case, and somebody's coming in and buying a property and either didn't do their due diligence or just doesn't like the fact that somebody's driving through their property, but those right-of-ways, easements, public roads exist, I think that they need to stay open. But I also think that if it's just been a dirt trail that maybe you were good neighbors with somebody and they let you drive through their property to get there, not a county road, not an easement, not a right of way, that a private property owner should have some property rights in that regard. Ultimately, I'm not a big fan of trespassers. I think that if we just got back to just being friendly to people and being good neighbors, a lot of these situations could be resolved. But ultimately, I think we need to rely on our property rights, and private property should matter. Thanks. I guess I'm going first now? Is that our third question?
No, we got one more.
Oh, one more, sorry.
One more, then we'll flip. So your next question, that you can take a couple of minutes on if you like, is as a county commissioner, how would you feel about the level of transparency that has taken place so far, and how would you improve it? Mainly, are you a proponent of live streaming the county commissioner meetings?
I am all for live streaming county meetings and even tape recording them and putting them on for a legacy forever. You know, when county commissioners or anybody is under the scrutiny of the public, they're on really good behavior. And we need to be able to have that. So far, it's not very transparent. There are some, you know, some maybe good notes, but you really don't know what transpired. You know, Preston's doing a really good job at their transparency. And I want to say, I called Dan Keller and I told him thank you, because I can find out almost anything I want, including their budgets, online, which is wonderful. I called the newspaper and I wanted to say to them, you know, to start an initiation, sometimes people need to speak anonymously. And in order to do that, you actually need a newspaper so someone will protect the person that is asking the questions or reporting. Because the fear of retaliation is real. Whether it's in the sheriff's department, the county commissioners, planning and zoning, wherever it is, people do need to be able to have sometimes their privacy private, so that issues can be brought to the front. No, I do not think we've been doing a good job at transparency. Thank you.
One of the tenets of my campaign is transparent communication, and I think that's very important. I think with regards to live streaming county commissioner meetings, I'm in favor of that. I've been going to the county commissioner meetings since about December, just to kind of get apprised of the situation and see what's going on. And our county commissioners are doing a good job, and everything that they do is above board, and they're not doing things underhandedly or sneakily. And so really, you know, that would continue if I was elected, and I would like for, when it comes to the communication, I think as citizens of the county, it just would go a long way in just showing that those things are that there's goodness happening at those meetings. You know, the time of the meetings, I think, as I've talked to some folks, there's some maybe unease, or they like the timing of the meetings to be different. Usually they're about 9 o'clock in the morning on Mondays. But having those live streamed and then recorded gives folks a chance, if they can't make it to the meeting in person, to go back and review it. A couple weeks ago, I was on the tractor planting some hay, and the Preston City Council meeting was going on, and I was able to prop it up in the corner of my tractor and watch that meeting and stay afloat of what was going on. I think that's a good thing. I don't think there's anything to be afraid of. It's easy with the technology these days. I would be in favor of live streaming our county commissioner meetings.
Okay, well, so Zach, you can go right back.
Give me the question first.
Go back first.
How about I stand up and you give me the question?
All right, your final question, a couple of minutes each. Franklin County has a lot of roads, a lot of gravel, unpaved roads in areas that are becoming neighborhoods. There's homes being built on them more and more. And so I'm wondering what you guys feel about a county policy on turning those gravel roads to paved roads, or some other sort of treatment, or a plan or a policy or a criteria of what roads to pave if you can afford to pave them. This is a question that gets asked a lot by county residents.
All right. Well, that's the truth. As I've been running for county commissioner, one of the things that almost comes up every time I talk to somebody is, what are you going to do about these dirt roads, these really bad roads? On the west side, we have a lot of dirt roads. I talked to Troy Moser, and he told me we have about 260 miles of dirt roads in the county. And I said, you know, we spend about $80,000 a year on the dust control, putting down the calcium chloride or whatever that is that kind of turns stuff to, keeps the dust down for a little bit, and then when it rains, it turns to mud. And I said, what if we just stop dust control and use that money to pave our roads? So 260 miles. I said, how much would $80,000 a year get us? And he said, a little bit over a mile. So as far as a vision, I have a 260-year plan to every year pave a mile of road, and we could get there. That being said, in all seriousness, roads are important. They help with commerce. They help with just, they can be hard on vehicles. It can be expensive. But at the same time, it's expensive to maintain them. So with regards to growth, I think we can do a better job as a county in having the people that are causing some of that growth pay for some of those issues. You know, the Idaho County or Idaho Code has provisions for impact fees, and when subdivisions come in, there's ways in order to make those subdivisions, those folks who are developing those subdivisions, have a bigger part in helping our infrastructure. Every time a new subdivision goes in, that's more roads, more fire departments, more EMS, more schools. They need to pay for that, and impact fees, I think, are the way to look at that. Thanks.
I'm a property rights Republican. I believe that you should be able to do what you want to do with your land, and that thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's land, nor covet dominion over it. That being said, at the same time, we do have expenses to pay. So when someone wants to come in and develop a new road, and they want to do what's called a PUD, they can actually go ahead and form a community that would cover the cost of those roads, and it wouldn't be covered by the city. The city would have no, or the county would have no maintenance over it, and the cost would be borne by the people within that community, within that HOA. That's one reason, one way. The other way is what's called impact fees and TIF fees. These also are a way for people that want to develop to go ahead and get the roads done, and to have a way for an extra tax to be assessed on that particular property over an amount of years to pay the roads or to pay the interest. Now, we happen to have a very unique opportunity right now. We have an abundance of grants as I've never seen before, and I'm in the grant business. I see grants all the time. We have absolutely billions of dollars available, and I suggest we take it now while it lasts, because as a county, we are now self-sufficient. If we did not have grants and handouts, we would be in big trouble, and that's the truth.
All right, 4-minute conclusion. Remember the EMS mandatory question.
Okay, thanks, hack. Well, again, thanks for being here tonight. It's been good to talk with you. I've appreciated meeting you out in the hallway afterwards. If you have time, I'd love to talk to you some more. If you have any issues or questions, we can chat. You know, as far as the EMS question that everybody's had, that you've heard a lot about, here's my perspective on it. We owe a great deal of gratitude to those folks who run the ambulance department, who, when the call comes in, they're there to answer it. A lot of times it's at the expense of their businesses and their time with their families and their weekends and their nights and those sort of things. We've done a lot of things in our county on the backs of volunteers, and that's the kind of community that we live in, and that's one of the reasons we like it here. But I think the time is coming to where we might need to look at some different ways to make sure that the ambulance department endures. When I met with them, as a lot of other commissioner candidates did, we tossed around some different ideas. It's not an easy solution, but one of the things that Zan Bowles alluded to was, in the meeting I talked about, growing the pool of volunteers is important. There's about 20-some volunteers, but most of the calls are handled by just a few of them. And when we have the fire department, who most of those folks are, EMT qualified, they could help out and augment the ambulance department. The problem is, right now, there's about a $7 difference between their pay and the ambulance pay. Ambulance pay, if they go on a call with the ambulance department, they would be $7 less an hour, which I don't think is the right thing to do. So I think what we need to do is equalize the pay for the ambulance department and the fire department, which would on a short term, immediately grow the pool of EMS volunteers that would be available. And then I think we do need to look at putting some more funding towards the EMS department to have 2 to 3 full-time folks. That sounded like the number when I talked with Mark Gilbert that would help shore some things up, and then continue to use our high schools and our young folks, try to train them and get them into the programs early. I think that's gonna be important, because I sure would like for the ambulance to show up if I'm having a heart attack. Right, Todd?
Yeah.
Even if he's just joking about it. You know, at the end of the day, when you go to vote on May 21st, I hope that you'll think about your decision. If you're looking for someone with a proven leadership record who has the experience to step in day one and lead the county into the future, not afraid to make hard decisions and is not afraid to listen. If you're looking for somebody who appreciates small town agricultural values, who's a farmer himself, who wants to keep this Franklin County a place that has open space and beautiful views, and a place that our kids can stay and prosper. If you're looking for someone who is transparent in their communication, who will communicate clearly, concisely, and correctly, then Zach Stewart is your man. If you want something else, then somebody else might be your man. Honor, duty, and service to God, family, and country. That's my family motto. That's how I live. That's how I'll approach the job of county commissioner. And again, I appreciate your time tonight. Thanks.
Well, Zach may be your man, but I'm your woman. So God created the woman last. Follow the sequence. You know what I'm talking about. So with the EMT situation, you know, I think it's important for us to absolutely realize they are getting no money while they are on call, only $15 when they're on the ambulance ride. So I did talk to Mark Gilbert as well and others, and you know, it's time to pony up as a county. This means we pay them a living, decent wage, and we need at least 4 of them in addition to many more volunteers. This is a service that they provided for us, and it does interfere with their family lives, their business, their whole economy. We are living in tough times right now. It is wrong. It is wrong to do this. So as county commissioner, we will find the money, and we will pay these people, and we will not have them suffer and have to choose between being a good Samaritan and making a living. Now, your voting time's coming up here. I am a true leader. I love my own businesses. But you don't need a leader. You need a person that's going to help you achieve what you need to do. You're not children. You're grown adults. I am someone that will work for you. I'm a servant, for and foremost. That's what I do in my business, and that's what I do for you. I serve people. I help enable them to reach their dreams, and I'm very capable. There is none second to me that is more capable. I promise you, they may be just as capable, but not more capable, and I know this. So on that day, you need to ask, who's going to care about your children? That's a topic that we didn't talk about tonight, and a topic that needs to be talked about. These EMTs out there, they're finding 9-year-olds trying to commit suicide. We have to ask ourselves why. So I know who I am. I'm my Father's child, and so are you. We can make a better and more inclusive community. This community is not defined by zero growth. We need to bring our families back and prepare for what's to come, because there is much to come. I want to say to you that we can always remain a rural county for when we really don't have enough water to probably sustain, 40,000 people. But we do need to tax base. We're not self-sufficient. The only way to get that is to either take your taxes and quadruple them, or to bring in more tax base in if we really want to be self-sufficient. Because we are living on grants, which is great for the moment. There's no future that says the grants are going to be there next year. Our families need to be together. We need to bring them home. We need to live in an area where we have multiple generations of families taking care of each other, because the world around us is changing. Our kids are being attacked. They have intrusive questioning being asked of them. My initiative for this county is to be a safe haven, a sanctuary county for our own children, where it would be illegal for others to ask them, what are your pronouns? Are you a him or her or bi? What is your sexual preference? If you don't think it's happening, you're wrong. It is happening. Ida has done some great things to save our children, safeguard them, but we need to take it a step further. And I hope you look at my website. It's franklincountysolutions.com. 30 topics in there. You'll know who I am by reading. Thank you so much for coming out tonight.
Thank you. Thank you for giving us a good conclusion, both of you. Thank all of you for sitting through this cold auditorium to listen to this information. We hope it's helpful to you for the May 21st primary. I thank you for attending. The candidates that are still here, willing to rub shoulders with you, they'll be out in the lobby for a little bit before we close up shop. So thank you and travel home safe.